Can the legacy of Oda Nobunaga be summed up in an episode of Star Trek? This is being released on June 21st. It is the anniversary of Nobunaga's assassination in 1582 by one of his generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, in what is called the Honnoji Incident. Mitsuhide turned traitor and attacked Nobunaga with some 13,000 troops, while Nobunaga was lightly guarded in Kyoto. It was an assassination, though Nobunaga did commit seppuku. During his life, Nobunaga went from tenuous control of half of a province to controlling a sizable portion of the country. Nobunaga's rise was bloody, as some of the following events show. 1571 and the siege of Mount Hiei. Nobunaga sets fire to Narakuji. Casualties are around 4,000, including women and children. 1573 and the siege of Odani Castle. The Asai and Asakura clans were destroyed. 1574 and the third siege of Nagashima. Casualties were around 20,000. Essentially the entire opposing force. 1575 and the Battle of Nagashino. Casualties of about 10,000, roughly 2/3 of the opposing force. Different sources will provide you with different casualty estimates, but these are just a few of the examples of Nobunaga's push toward the rulership of Japan. So what does this have to do with Star Trek? In season 1 of the original series, there was an episode called A Taste of Armageddon. The premise was that two planets were claiming they had been at war for over 500 years. Even though the Enterprise saw no evidence of war. It turned out they were fighting the war with computers. Cities were being destroyed in simulated attacks. Casualties then voluntarily had themselves disintegrated, allowing the cultures to survive. The Enterprise had been declared destroyed in a computer-simulated attack, and the crew were now fighting for their lives. In the end, Kirk destroyed the targeting computers on one planet, which was a signal for real war to resume. The result was the two planets finally began discussing peace. As Kirk commented, he gave them back the horrors of war. And this is what Nobunaga effectively did. When Nobunaga began his rise, Japan had been embroiled in civil war for over 90 years and was split into over 65 provinces. Neighboring provinces fought each other repeatedly, and there were some leadership changes. But it had become a status quo situation, where people talked about unification, but there was no real move to unify. The people were tired of fighting, but the leadership in parts of the country was somewhat comfortable with status quo. In his rise, Nobunaga gave Japan back the horror of war. It was brutal. And when Hideyoshi took over, he began using agreements, such as he had worked out with the Mori clan in 1582, which is represented by the bottom lilac portion on this map. This doesn't mean he stopped fighting. As this map shows, there were still 3 clans against Hideyoshi. Hideyoshi defeated the Chosokabe in 1585, the Shimazu in 1587, and then the Hojo in 1590, effectively unifying the country. Hideyoshi finished unification in only 8 years. A famous power struggle was still to come, but Japan, for argument's sake, was unified. So in the aftermath, the horror of Nobunaga's wars, much of Japan began a push toward peace. I recognize this is a glossing over of many details, but in remembering Nobunaga's assassination, it is an interesting discussion. Thank you for watching.